are P waves present or absent? There's no maybe. It's either yes or no. Either they're present or they're absent. And if they are present, are they regular or irregular? Now, we'll get back into a little bit of that. Is it regularly irregular, irregularly irregular, or occasionally irregular once we look at some of those areas, and we can help identify what I mean by that. So let's take a look here at our top strip, and we can see that this actually is a P wave, and this is a P wave, and this is a P wave. And as you can see, as we come down through here, these are all P waves. So P waves for the top ECG are yes. They are present. For the bottom ECG, they are present as well. So yes. So our first question is answered. And that is, are P waves present or absent? And here you can see that they are present. Now, to determine whether or not they are regular, we need to use our calipers. So I'll pull those back in here. And it doesn't really matter which ones you use, which way you use this, whether or not you use the ones on the top or the ones on the bottom. And everybody always wants to know, should we go to a particular part of the P wave? I like to go at the top. And that just means that, so if I go from the top of one, so if I go from the top of, let me just change colors here. So if I go from the top here, I want to go to the top here. Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm measuring it in the same spot each time. Okay, so now I will just move my calipers. And I'm just asking, are they regular or irregular? And right off the bat, these top ones absolutely are regular. So therefore, this would have a regular P wave. So our P waves are present and they are regular. So let's take a look at our bottom one. Let's see if that is regular as well. And we're going to move our calipers so we get a good P to P. That's what we're going to call this, a P to P. And we're going to move this down. And it looks like they're pretty regular when I do this. A little off. So sometimes if they're about a block off, half a block off, you're still okay. We would count that as being regular. So again, this is a regular P wave. Okay, let's take a look at our next aspect, or see if we can find something different when we're looking for P waves and regularities. So again, we're taking a look at P waves. And so far you've seen in the first two ECGs that they were pretty easily identified. We had a P wave that actually was rounded, right? So it kind of did one of those, and that's okay. But you will also notice, though, that these almost look like they have a little peak to them. Okay, so they have a little bit more of a peak to them. So let's find out. It does look like there are P waves. And just for simplicity, I'm not going to go ahead and circle each one, but we're going to measure them. So if they're P waves, they should line up. And we're just, again, doing a P to P. And we'll move our waves down. And it looks like they line up. Okay. Another thing to take a look at sometimes is that you may be able to see that they also line up with the QRS complexes sometimes. So that makes life a little bit easier as well. Now, we have those. So let's come down here and take a look at these P waves as well. Readjust our calipers. Again, we're just looking to see whether or not these things are regular or irregular. And they appear to be regular. Okay? So, we have P waves. We found that the P waves are regular. And that's as much as we have achieved thus far. And we'll go into the next rule. So our next step, as you can see, is P waves. Are there P waves for every QRS? And are there QRSs for every P wave? Now, I know this sounds monotonous, but it is not. Actually, what you need to do is just like reading a book or reading any passage. You read from left to right. So if you can do that, you have the ability to apply these rules very simply. So for this case, what I'm going to do is highlight where a P wave and a QRS is, right? Because we want to know, is there a P wave for a QRS? So here's a P wave, QRS, P wave, QRS, P wave, QRS, P wave, QRS, P wave, QRS. Now, come down here, there's a P wave, we're missing a QRS. P wave, is this here a QRS complex? And the answer is yes. Is this connected to that? Well, the rules really state that if there is a delay, it has to be greater than 0.20 seconds of time. And we'll talk more about those later. It doesn't give it a maximum. So for this, we're going to say that these two are connected. This looks like it might be a P wave, but I'm not 100% sure. So what can I do with this? Well, we're going to erase my marks here, and I'm going to pull in my calipers. And what I do is I look at two P waves that I know for sure exist. So there's two P waves. If this beat that I was circling earlier right here is a P wave, it should line up. So let's move our calipers and look at that. It does. So when we look at this, every one of these are P waves, including this one in here. So this is also a P wave. Okay. So I want to know whether or not this one down here, right about here, let's take a look. Let's move our calipers again. That is a P wave. Okay, and you'll see that it runs right back in line. Okay, so what we have found is that there is a P wave right here. Okay, so all of these are P waves. Now, when we ask that question of are there P waves for every QRS, okay, so P wave, there's a QRS, there's a P wave and a QRS, so these two connect. P wave and a QRS, P wave and a QRS. So when we get to that first question, again, that first question is, are P waves for every QRS? And the answer for that is yes. Now let's reverse it. Are there QRSs for every P? Well, let's see if this yellow one will work. So there's a Q, here's a P, it's missing a QRS. There's a P, oops, there's a P right here. We're missing a QRS. We're missing a QRS here. We are missing a QRS complex here. Another QRS complex is missing here. And another one is missing here. So when we ask the question, P waves for QRS. And this is what I say is reading left to right. Okay, our answer to that is yes. But when I reverse it, QRS for every P, the answer here is no, and that's when I move this way. Okay, So I read in one direction and I just reverse it. So when I'm looking at the ECG on the bottom, okay, that's where this rule this is where this is applying. This is what we're talking about as to why you're answering these questions. You're answering these questions so that at the end you can form a definition. You can say what that ECG rhythm is. Okay? So this whole thing again with the P wave and the QRS complex, and is there a QRS for every P? Let's take a look at another rhythm just before we move on to the other roles, right? So if you take a look at this, and let's just highlight these again. So this is again a different ECG, but here's the P wave. There is another P wave, and there is another P wave. So we already identified that those are P waves. P wave and QRS, P wave QRS, P wave QRS, P wave QRS, P wave QRS. But look right here. I have a QRS that does not have a P wave. So when I'm asking the question, is there a P wave for every QRS? Here, I answer no. But when I reverse it, and I say, is there a QRS for every P? Okay, so QRS for P, the answer is yes. Okay, this one here is the abnormality. This is something that we're going to have to account for. And this is, again, don't jump ahead. Take your time. We're going to take a look at this, and we're going to start identifying what each one of these ECG rhythms are.